Hi everyone, and welcome back to part 2 of my Halo Infinite Is It Worth It series. In this video, unlike the previous one, where I spent the time criticizing 343 with their abhorrent business practices as well as their questionable design choices that irked myself and many other veteran players, in this one I'll be focusing on the positives and things that 343 did well for Halo Infinite and good things they're bringing to the table for the franchise as a whole. So, let's dive in. First off, let's talk about the visuals. The visuals are great. The armor looks fantastic, and Halo Spartans are now back in their prime, with the sturdy, utilitarian look that is signature of our favorite super soldier cyborgs. The Spartans are back in the best way, especially after the armor from Halo 4 and 5 that looked comical and like they were pulled from a Gundam series or the Godzilla anime series that was in 3D. I mean, they did look cool, but they didn't fit in Halo at all, and I kind of really didn't like that. But they're back, and the Reach armors, they actually look even better in Infinite, and I was not expecting them to look this good. As for the vehicles, they're slick and new, yet they have the very familiar look. And yes, now you can customize them, which is a really cool feature. Sure, most of the cool customizations are locked behind the horrible paywall, battle pass, and broken progression system, but in its own right, it's still welcomed and a nice touch, in my mind. As for the maps and the environment, they're stunning. They remind me of classic Halo maps, and now you can actually recognize the Forerunner structures. They aren't that weird new mess that 343 brought in with 4 and 5 that just came out of nowhere and was taking it in a completely different direction. These ones actually look like the familiar ones and feel like home. As for the graphics within the environment, the classic Halo color palette for the wood and trees and dirt and rocks looks great in this newer game. The sky looks fantastic, the clouds look great, and the ships and effects that you can see in game look fantastic. They're second to none. And although I really do dislike 343, I will admit that they did hit a home run with the visuals, and Halo Infinite is a beautiful game in every sense of the word. Even though it did take a lot of community backlash for them to do it right after they released their first reveal of the Halo Infinite trailer, and we saw a cartoony looking Master Chief and characters, but it looks like they're making some progress down that road. This takes us to the next part. Aside from the visuals, a big important part of games is the sound design. And honestly, 343 hit it out of the park again. The intro sound and music was a fresh take on classic Halo sounds and tracks from the previous games, and there are a lot of the ones that we love. It was honestly emotional to see the splash screen, hear those really cool sounds, followed by the epic chant that we know from Halo over the last 20 years. And it was nice to browse the menus and explore the first time and hear these tracks in the background. It's a big plus for me, and it made me more immersed in the fact that this was an actual Halo title. I didn't really get that feeling from the menus of 4 and 5. And as for the actual gameplay outside of the menus and UI, we have the guns. The guns actually sound like firearms now. The report of the rifles feels like it's powerful even from a distance, and the concussive firing of each round is noticeable. The reloading, the impacts, and explosions all sound great, and the Scorpion cannons have that huge amount of oomph that we're used to feeling, but it's stepped up a notch. It all sounds fantastic. As an avid firearms sportsman and collector myself, I love the way guns feel and sound if they're done right in video games, and Infinite really does it right. And don't even get me started with the metal cannon and the plasma cannons that fire on the big team battle maps when you're halfway through the game. They are epic to say the least, and the first time I jumped because they definitely took me off guard, and I mean that in the best way. This brings me to the next part of the combat in Infinite, and that's the weapons themselves. Even though they sound great, they play even better. Although in the previous video, I had many complaints about the classic firearms and the unnecessary nerfs and mechanic changes that 343 felt the need to put in for one reason or another. The new weapons, I must admit, are pretty cool for the most part. Aside from the unnecessary dynamo grenades that really are just a nuisance more than anything, and the horrible rendition of the Halo shotgun, the Bulldog, that's just garbage. The rest of the new weapons are definitely something to write home about. Starting with the new sidearm, the Mark 50, 343 is coming out of the gate strong with this one. This new sidearm, while I was skeptical, blew me away. In Halo, sidearms have pretty much most of the time taken the sidelines, outside of game types like SWAT or Infection, and this game changes that. This new pistol packs a serious punch, and it can hold its own against primary weapons in the hands of a skilled user. I love this gun, and as somebody who loves firearms and shoots handguns frequently, this is a realistic and immersive change that I think is great. It feels like the sidearms are actually useful now. I love this gun, and I recommend practicing with it, as it will win you gun battles, especially when you need to save and grace, or you don't have enough time to reload. Plus, it looks awesome. It's a modern and sleek look that fits really well with the other UNSC weapons, and I think it's a great way to have a more contemporary pistol in our inventory. I give the Mark 50 a 10 out of 10, easily. And 343, please don't nerf it. It's perfect as it is. Next, I want to show you the badass power weapon, the Skewer. This thing is a beast. I didn't like it at first, but once I got some practice, I realized that this thing is a match winner. V equals beware, because the Skewer is your worst nightmare. This thing one-hits most small vehicles, and will always kill the driver or passenger in the larger vehicles with a well-placed shot. It is a badass, pipe-launching weapon that had me feeling like I was Bard, firing a black arrow at Smog when I shot down my first wasp with it. And don't worry, although it is a powerhouse, it does have a decent learning curve, so despite them being a pilot or driver's worst nightmare, they actually are balanced surprisingly well. If I were you, I'd definitely learn to use this weapon. It's really amazing, and I think it adds a lot to Halo multiplayer. Next, we have the Commando. Well, this one has gotten mixed reviews from the community so far. Personally, I think this gun is one that should stay. It's a full power, high power, automatic jackhammer of a gun. And honestly, it's like the child of the DMR. It hits hard and it hits far with great accuracy. But beware, its heavy recoil is really brought to the table with this automatic firing. It's not for the faint of heart. For players that are used to playing SWAT and using the DMR or battle rifle, you're probably going to really like this gun. It's a nice fill. It's going to take some practice, but it's great at all ranges, even close once you get the hang of it. And it's graced me with headshots in an abundance that I haven't seen since Reach. It's very similar to the DMR in both look and feel, and it has the similar accuracy crosshair where you have to wait for the recoil to come back in before it's accurate again. But since it's an automatic gun, it takes care of that for you, and all you have to really do now is control the recoil. Other than that, it's really good. It feels very powerful, and just a solid firearm that really sounds like you're doing some work when you're putting rounds down range. It's a really cool gun in my opinion, and before you write it off, I would recommend giving it a real chance. As far as the Covenant weapons, they feel like they always have. They're powerful and balanced in their own very unique ways, and each one fills their own niche. The Needler is still awesome, and it feels like it does work and track better than in the previous installments. I don't know if it actually does, but it just feels that way. Maybe it's just the updated graphics that are fooling me. The Plasma Pistol still packs the nasty charge that eats up shields. It's awesome. It's a staple of Halo. The new weapons, a lot of them seem to just be renamed Forerunner weapons that are reskinned, that function in a similar way to their predecessors. You'll know what I mean when you play in game, and I'm talking about the Heatwave and other weapons like it. One of the newer weapons that stands out to me though is the Shock Rifle. This thing is a blast to use. It's a one-shot kill if it's a headshot, and will eat the shield of your target if you shoot anywhere else, with the added bonus of shocking any Spartans that are close enough nearby to them. It's really fun to use, and it feels sort of like a battle rifle with projectiles that are electronic, and it has a similar projectile speed, and you need to properly lead your shots just like the battle rifle. Personally, I love it. While I'm not a pro, With practice, I have done pretty well with it, and I'm sure you will too. And of course, there are many other weapons that are new in this game. These are the ones that stood out to me in the best ways, that's why I included them in this video. Lastly, for the guns, we will take a look at the MA40. The assault rifle now feels like it's getting the respect it deserves, especially as the poster child for Halo, as it's been seen on many video game covers and book covers as well. And it was always seen as a starting weapon that you would replace the first chance you got. The days of the assault rifle being put on the sidelines are gone though, and the MA40 has been overhauled, and can actually be used at medium to long ranges if done right. It's very reliable and will give you consistent kills. It's an easy weapon to use and straightforward. Anyone can pick it up and hold their own with it. But in this game, it feels more powerful, more accurate. The ADS, even though it's not a true aim down sight, feels great, and it's just an all-around better gun to use. I had a lot of fun with it so far, and gunning and punching with the assault rifle feels like something I missed in Halo for quite a long time. It's great in Infinite, and I have no complaints about it. In fact, I think it's better than ever in this rendition. Now that we've covered the weapons, let's talk about the vehicles. Vehicles have been a staple of Halo combat since day one, and I'm learning to love them quite a bit now, more than ever. They feel like they are robust yet agile warhorses, instead of the awkward feeling vehicles from the previous 343 games. I mean, they weren't horrible, but they just felt slightly off, like they were made of paper mache, and they had the durability to match, or so it seemed. In Infinite, the Warthog drives exceptionally well. It's familiar and it feels like the older games, and the gun has been replaced and rebalanced in a best way, and it now feels like a proper heavy machine gun should. It has a long range and much better accuracy than ever seen before, but this has been balanced with slightly reduced aim sensitivity. But it's awesome. It feels great, and I think this is a really good change. You can actually stay in this vehicle for an extended period without it being destroyed by almost anything on the battlefield, like before. I actually feel like there's an advantage to driving the Warthog around again, especially in objective modes. Plus, it sounds awesome, and it even looks better than ever. The customization options, while I was a skeptic, look pretty cool for it as well, so I like it. And the engine revving and fast-paced, acrobatic driving that comes from the Warthog is just nice, and it feels like a proper combat and a reconnaissance vehicle should. And it really is probably my favorite vehicle again in Halo Infinite. That brings me to the other favorite UNSC vehicle, being the Scorpion. Our favorite big and bad main battle tank of the UNSC. This thing, while it seems to move slower than before, actually feels like a proper tank again. Sure, it's slow, but it's durable as hell, and you can feel the mass. Don't talk about the main gun. That main gun speaks for itself. It cuts through Spartan armor and other vehicles like butter, with a healthy helping of balanced blast damage on the side. Seriously, try the new Scorpion. It may drive slow and aim slow, but it won't disappoint, especially with its firework displays and massive presence on the battlefield. Be sure to take this thing out as soon as possible. When you see it on the other side, you will be hurting. The Scorpion is imposing and scary as it ever has been in Halo Infinite, and it really plays like a dream. Next, we can look at the Covenant vehicles, starting with the new Chopper, or the Brute Chopper, as it's called in the game. And I've missed the Chopper for so long, since I loved it so dearly in Halo 3. And while it's not perfect in Halo Infinite, I added it to this video anyways, because I'm glad to see it here. The guns feel like they've been nerfed, and driving it is, well, it feels kind of delayed and mushy, and it has a really awkward center of gravity. It's extremely easy to flip the Chopper now. And when I say extremely easy, it's extremely easy. I feel like every time I hit a rock or a Spartan or a tree or anything, I'm kicked out of the vehicle and it's on its side and I have to flip it so I can get back in. And that really takes away from the fun of driving it around. You can still boost and grind your enemies with the two front wheels, and that's still cool. It just doesn't feel like they work as well as they used to. I've boosted into several Spartans and vehicles alike, And instead of seeing them get crushed in a fiery blaze, all I really see is their shield break or parts of the vehicle fall off, which is, I guess, maybe realistic. I'm not sure about all the physics behind it, but it's just not the chopper I was used to. So far, though, I'm just glad to see it back in Infinite. Now onto the Wraith. The Wraith is familiar. It feels like a Wraith, it drives like a Wraith, and can be boarded and grenade planted like a classic Wraith. I love it, because it is a Wraith. It's not bad in any means, and it doesn't feel like there have been any crazy updates or changes to it. It's still awesome as it ever was, and you'll love it just like you always have. It's great to drive and gun. But honestly, it's just a Wraith. It just feels like a Wraith. So that's really all I have to say about it. As for the Ghost is still a really good vehicle. Kind of similar to the Chopper, I find myself flipping the Ghost a lot more in Halo Infinite than I ever have flipped it before. Maybe that's just me, I'm not sure. That, as well as the sensitivity for aiming the cannons, the plasma cannons on the Ghost, seems delayed, similar to the way that Warthog is delayed as well. And while it's not game-breaking, it is noticeable to me. Don't get me wrong, it still is a really good vehicle, but I don't know, it just feels a little bit off to me. I love driving it around, it's still a blast. You know, boosting and splattering with my Ghost in Infinite is as easy and fun as it ever has been. I don't know, it feels off to me. I'm gonna have to play with it more before I give a definitive answer on how much I do like it. But hey, a Ghost is a Ghost, and Ghosts are awesome, so have your fun. It's still good in Infinite, and I do recommend using it.
Disgusting.
So next, let's take to the skies. And first, we'll take a look at the new Wasp vehicle for UNSC forces. This thing is really cool. It has rockets and a gun akin to the Warthog's gun. It's fun and easy to fly, but the aiming sensitivity is very slow, so you really need to lead your targets quite a bit, especially at distance. And the rockets are cool, it fires a pair of them, but just like the Spanker, they fire and travel at a snail's pace. Like, seriously, they're extremely slow. If you see one coming at your way, you can honestly just walk and hide or avoid it by stepping out, even if the rockets are locked onto you. And that's not really good for a vehicle that's supposed to be going against everything on the battlefield. It needs a serious buff to the weapons, especially the rockets, just like the Spanker. And a capable Banshee pilot, if you know how to fly a Banshee, you can easily tear apart a Wasp, so it doesn't really do as well as you would expect it to. It's a cool vehicle, but I don't know. I put it in here because I think it's a positive, as I've wanted to see something similar to the Hornet for quite a while, and this kinda itches that scratch, or scratches that itch. But it could have been done better. So, speaking of the Banshee, this thing is back, and like the Wraith, it feels like a Banshee, it flies like a classic Banshee. Even though it looks like the 343 rendition, which I'm not a huge fan of, and I know a lot of other people aren't, it still is a Banshee, so I do like it. You can use the boost maneuvers and the plasma cannons as well as the plasma bombs, and this Banshee, as always, fills the anti-armor, anti-personnel, and air-to-air roles very well. It's a jack of all trades, but a master of none. The Banshee in Infinite is what we all know and love. But you should be mind-filled, because I found that the Banshee, since it flies low and slow and needs to come in at certain angles for its attacks, is quite vulnerable to the grapple shot, and you know, the grapple shot is cool. It's cool if you're doing the hijacking, but it's very frustrating and annoying if you're the one being hijacked. So keep an eye out for those grapple shots, and mind your altitude. Speaking of the grapple shot, the new armor abilities are great. You find them on the map, and they are awesome at giving situational advantage without being too specific or too overpowered at the same time. Unlike Reach, you don't start off with them in your custom loadout, and they're something you have to find on the battlefield, which I think is welcome because it kind of made gameplay from the start unbalanced in Reach unless you really coordinated with your team well. And also, they have a limited number of uses, so it's a nice way to balance them in Infinite. Starting off, you have the grapple shot, and it's awesome. You'll feel like Spider-Man or Spider-Gwen swinging from the walls and rooftops. and you'll be the dread of drivers and pilots alike, because if you grapple a vehicle, you now hijack the nearest seat. It's super fun and easy to use, but it is indeed hard to master. So even though it is formidable, it is still balanced. I'm still having a lot of fun learning how to use it properly. All in all, the grapple shot is a blast to use, and it gets an easy 10 out of 10 for me. It adds a ton of mobility in a cool way that doesn't break game. Next, we have the repulsor. This thing is kind of hard to use. I'm still trying to get the hang of it, but when you do get those parts where you use it properly and at the right times, it's going to be your best friend. You can repel grenades, Spartans, vehicles, projectiles all alike, and it is very useful. I find in objective-based games especially, for obvious reasons. It reminds me of a Halo-esque unrelenting force from Skyrim, where instead of saying Fush Radha, you show your assailant your fist and launch them pretty good distance away from you very quickly. And I chuckled the first time I did it because I wasn't expecting it to work that well, and it was kind of funny to see that. It caught me off guard. All in all, it's pretty cool, it's fun to use, and very useful. So definitely try your hand at using that repulsor. Now, let's look at the best part of the new armor abilities. And this is an old faithful member of the Halo gameplay universe. And it's the active camo. When I say new and improved, I really mean new and improved. Now the active camo will stay on even when you're standing and walking, and it makes your footsteps silent while it's equipped and powered on. This thing is so much more useful now, but it's not OP, and in my opinion, this is what active camo should always have been in Halo from the start. In the previous games, it made Spartans slightly harder to see, but the blur was very noticeable, and unless you were really focused on something else, you could see the blur of the Spartan or Elite coming at you from quite far away. Now that kind of changes. The blur works very well. It masks you in any environment and any lighting, and unless somebody has their eye out, they're really paying attention, they're not really going to see you, and I think that's the way active camo should work. I mean, it's camouflage after all. Kind of makes you feel like you have a invisibility superpower, but it doesn't last forever, so you do have to use it when the opportunity arises. It's very formidable and dangerous though, so when paired with a sword or a gravity hammer, it will be your enemy's worst nightmare. And your worst nightmare as well, if the enemy has it. So definitely pay attention to your AI, and if you hear them say that the active camo is about to spawn or that the enemy has it, definitely stay on your toes, because this thing can lose or win a game for you very easily. Lastly, this brings me to the movement, and the movement is done well. In previous installments from 343, it felt like they were trying to make Halo play like Infinite Warfare or Titanfall with their advanced mobility systems, which was not very well received by the community and myself, especially in the long term of the series. I'm sure it could be fun at times, overall it just didn't feel like Halo. Infinite has done away with this sort of movement, and while we have awesome new mechanics like mantling over obstacles and clinging and climbing up nearby walls and ledges, Infinite doesn't take it too far out of the familiar style. The jumping still feels springy and solid, and the strafing, backstepping, and running gameplay feels just like Halo as ever, and in the best way. While I personally wish we could turn the sensitivity a lot higher on the controllers, 343, please do this. It feels like Halo more than ever, rather than a reskinned Titanfall. This climbing adds just enough to the classic movement formula for me to say that this is probably the most perfect rendition of what I imagine Halo combat should be as of yet. And all in all, the game plays like a dream. It looks fantastic, and it sounds great too. The combat is fast-paced and fun, but it doesn't outpace the Halo formula, and the vehicles are better than ever. The guns, while many were nerfed in really bad ways, especially some of our favorites, and we have this crappy scope glint that was ripped out of COD, there are also many super cool additions to the game, like the Skewer and the Mark 50, among others. The combat overall is just, it's excellent, and I think it's the most fun I've had in Halo in 11 years, since Reach. I love the gameplay, and if you like Halo, you will too. It is immersive, it's very fun, and it's the chaotic mesh of vehicle and ground fighting that makes Halo, Halo. The gameplay of Infinite easily gets a 10 out of 10 in my book, and although I do think it's worthy of the title, Halo, Even though I do like the gameplay, honestly, it is really phenomenal. I personally don't
There's so
think
much
that the battle
happening.
pass and playing the game is worth it at this point. The armor and customization that's locked behind hugely broken
game has
paywall
so
and
much
an
happening.
awful buggy progression system with challenges. And the best armors are locked in a store that can't be unlocked with skill or playtime, and you have to just dish out money if you want them. I can't look past that, you know? There's no real replay value. The progression used to be fun and rewarding, but now it's just stressful and frustrating. And even though, like I've said several times, the gameplay is super fun, objective-based games are absolutely ruined by the challenge system. Like, there's no incentive to play the objective anymore because everybody is just searching for specific guns or weapons to perform their challenges, and honestly, it really ruins the game for everybody else.
Oh, shit.
There's no real
I wasn't
incentive to play ranked to perform well anymore because, you know, performing well doesn't affect your progress anyways. You're gonna get just as much experience as somebody who did really terrible in the game, and even if you do unlock the high tier stuff, you're gonna see other people out with it on the battlefield that just bought it outright, and it really just devalues it.
I got visions.
And don't even get me started on the challenges. They're reliant on RNG, and if you can't connect to a match or you don't have good luck getting the vehicles and stuff you need to complete it, you're gonna have to pay for a swap. And if you don't want to pay or can't pay for a swap, then you're just out of luck. And 343 really doesn't care. They're sticking to their penny pinching ways, and they're turning Halo into a subscription-based, cookie-cutter service like all the other games. And it's really sad and heartbreaking to see this. And like I said previously, you will own nothing and you will be happy. This is the future of a lot of games and services we're seeing.
That's how I know.
And it really is hard to see so many people fall prey to these downright criminal and predatory business models, but they still do. No one wants to earn armor anymore, progress through the game in a meaningful way. It's not immersive anymore. There's no real reason to try. When anyone can just buy the armor you worked hard to earn, it completely devalues the progression and gameplay so much there's no fun left in actually ranking up or getting experience. It makes the accomplishment feel like a grind, and it makes the good feeling of, you know, progress dead. And since there is so much prepackaged content behind this paywall and store, and the stuff you do have is stuck with so much red tape and being locked to specific armor cores and stuff, you truly can't take advantage of everything Halo Infinite has to offer unless you do pay extra on top of the battle pass you already bought. Being an exceptional Halo player means nothing now in 2021, and it's a very sad day for Halo and gaming alike, because being a good player doesn't offer you anything over anybody else that just wants to dish out money. And personally, I think we all need to make 343 hear us, because this is not the treatment Halo or gamers or members of this community and universe deserve. I don't think the legacy of Halo deserves this either. And if Halo and gaming keep going down this road, we're just going to be paying more and more money and receiving less and less in return. I don't want to go to work and come and play a game and feel like it's a chore, and it'd be stressful for me trying to run against like the clock to try and unlock stuff, pay money. It's not fun anymore. It really isn't. So, all in all, I know I'm not the only one that feels this way, and while some of you might disagree, I know that fans that aren't coming from Fortnite and Call of Duty really share a lot of the same sentiments with me. And I do love it, I do have a lot to say. So let's get to the main question I asked. Is Halo Infinite worth playing? Well, the verdict is absolutely. It is amazingly fun. Definitely try it out. But even though I think it is fun and it's a good experience, don't expect to get hooked. The battle pass makes replay value pointless, and it's a ball and chain now, rather than something I used to look forward to and be competitive with friends and stuff. Like, all of that's gone. And with this awful progression, the gameplay and replay value loses its luster very quickly. I've been playing Halo for 20 years, and even though Infinite has been a home run and I've had a blast playing with it, after a week, I'm I'm already feeling burnt out on this whole battle pass. And this whole progression system just cripples the entire experience, that no matter how many good things 343 brings to the table, it's rooted itself in every aspect of the game that they will never take the forefront over this lingering thought in the back of your mind that Halo is being ruined by it. Although this may seem like a grim outlook, I mean, it's the way I feel. And we are making some headway with making 343 change their ways and concede with the community, so let's keep up the pressure. I haven't given up hope yet, and hopefully we can get some even better things in the future out of 343, or maybe even a different developer potentially that will take over the reins of Halo in the future. So, thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate all the views and support from everyone. I know I don't have the most polished content and there can be some audio or visual bugs in it, but I put a lot of hard work and time into making my videos, and I'm not monetized, so I don't get any form of compensation from making these videos. Honestly, I just do it because I'm a huge fan of Halo, I'm an avid gamer, and I have a lot of love and respect for this universe and community, and it means a lot to me. So even though people might disagree with me, I would appreciate if you just started talking and giving your opinions in the comments and starting a discussion, because even if you do disagree and I may not have really reached out to you in the best way, I still have accomplished my mission of starting this discussion and making people keep this topic relevant so we can start seeing some positive changes for the gaming industry as a whole. So please tell me your thoughts in the comments, and let's see what you all have to say. Please consider liking and subscribing to my channel, because I do, like I said, put a lot of hard work into this, and I'm trying to upgrade my equipment and stuff so I can make better content in the future. And the liking, commenting, and subscribing is a huge help to my channel. So if you like what I have to offer, please stay tuned, because there's sure to be more in the future, and much more frequently than you've seen in the past, because there are some developments in my life that are going to make it easier. So again, thank you for watching. You are all awesome, and I can't wait to see you next time. And I'll see you on the battlefield in Halo Infinite, hopefully. So I'll see you around, and peace.